Welcome to Building Great Sales Teams, a show dedicated to making sales teams tick, tick, boom. Great sales teams are not recruited, they are built, block by block. Let's get to work.
So you are a person, so
Right.
married, kids, girlfriend, any of that stuff? Okay.
Nope. Single as a primo. I've been single for over 3 years. It's been beautiful. I've enjoyed my singledom. More than anything, bro, I needed some time with myself. I needed that.
That's fair.
I needed that part of my journey here.
That's fair. Like I would not change the fact that I had kids so young, but man, it would have been nice to be single for a while for sure. You know, and figure out.
There's pros and cons to all sides, man.
Yeah.
You know, because there's days where I'm like, it'd be nice to have a family. It'd be nice to have that stuff. I mean, it goes both ways.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, we got Alex Keats with us today. Alex is a friend of mine in the Apex network, and we've actually known about each other for a long time, haven't connected until a couple weeks ago. And it turns out that Alex and I have a very similar background in building sales teams. And so Alex also has a passion for it. He's been in the business for about 12 years, just like me. 10 of those years were invested into building sales teams, got his start in life insurance, and has spent the last 6 years in roofing. I don't think we have any other roofers in Apex, do we?
Right, none of those guys.
But Alex is particularly interested in hiring, training, and retaining great salespeople, so that makes you a perfect fit for this show. You know, obviously we talk about that a lot, and a lot of times we get super tactical on it, and then it just kind of goes over into mindset, like most of these shows do. You know what I'm saying? But let's start in the beginning, Alex. Where did this all start? When did you get your first sales position?
So for me, started in sales. So at 22 years old, I went to college. Before that, I graduated, and I always tell folks I had my quarter life crisis. At 22, I was like, what the fuck do I want to do with my life? I had no clue. You know, at that point, I'd kind of just march to the beat of go to school every year, right? Go to school, go to school, go to school. You know, in the college, just went to school.
What was your major?
But my whole time, I got my major in political science. And so even going into school, I didn't know what I wanted to study. And I have an older brother, and his advice was, if you don't know what you want to get your degree in, then at least study topics that you're interested in, because that way it'll have your attention. You'll go to class, you'll get good grades and pass. He's like, no one really cares what you get in, you know, for your bachelor's degree.
Right.
So I was like, cool. So I took a bunch of random classes my freshman year, ended up really liking this one political science class. I was like, that was cool. I'll take a bunch of classes like that. I've always liked history. And what I found about political science was you need to know historical context to understand modern problems and modern situations. So to me, it was always about using history to do some problem solving, like what's going on in the current political environment somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so I was fascinated by that. So I took a bunch of classes, did well. Actually highlighted my college career was I was on the rowing team at the University of Washington for 4 years. Phenomenal experience. So sometimes I forget it. I look backwards and I'm like, I'm a 4-year Division I athlete. Like,
yeah,
not a lot of people always get to say that. That's a pretty cool thing, especially that was a high level program. I mean, I know guys that went to the Olympics and won medals. Like, it was really cool. It was a phenomenal experience.
Well,
taught me a lot of discipline.
We talk about it all the time that the greatest salespeople were typically athletes. You know, sports-minded, competitive,
teamwork,
disciplined.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff that goes into it. Yeah. So I've been an athlete my whole life. Been a jock for sure. Was rowing, but then graduated and was like, man, I have no clue what I want to do. And so it was actually one of my friends on the rowing team who had done an internship in the spring with this insurance company. And so he'd been inviting guys in for interviews. And so I took the interview. And at the time, what really appealed to me was the sense of freedom. That is what first brought me into sales. It wasn't even the money itself. It was the idea of being challenged and having the freedom to make my own schedule and work as hard as I wanted. Mm-hmm. That was the most appealing part to me. And and I've been in sales for 12 years now. And that mindset of sales has evolved into entrepreneurship. So I know that's the next steps for me. And I love that sense of freedom. You know, it's who cares how hard things are, whatever the challenges are, at least it's under your control, how you want to attack it, what you want to do with your schedule.
I can't imagine going back to being like even a part, I guess a minority partner, you know what I'm saying, or an employee or a key player in a company. I can't imagine. I mean, and there's so many great companies that allow you that freedom and you're allowed to blossom and do your own thing and everything, but I can't imagine not having that freedom anymore, to where I wake up in the morning and you know what? Yes, I have my schedule, but I set that, right? Exactly. I just can't imagine someone else telling me where and when to be there, you know? And that's probably why I got fired from my first 20 positions when I was younger, because I was a terrible employee. People kept telling me what to do and I didn't listen.
I'm the same way, man. That's my number one thing. I'm like, just let me do it my way and I will be so happy. But you tell me where to be, when to be, how to do, like, that grinds my gears.
Gotcha.
It definitely does.
So insurance sales, how well did you do at that? So you did that for most of your.
That well.
Yeah. Okay.
I did it for 6 years, and I mean, even the first couple of years, I did not take it serious. I was just like, I'm just here because I don't know what else to do. Mm-hmm. I'd really just rather be hanging out with my friends. So I never excelled at it. I mean, I found all kinds of ways to half work, half not the first couple of years.
I was going to say, how'd you pay your bills?
Just barely. I mean, that's the thing. I was just made enough just to kind of barely get by.
Just over broke.
Pretty much. Oh yeah. And the whole thing was like preaching like this is unlimited income, but I was like, but no. Well, because I'll never forget to this day, there was one meeting where I was sitting in the back and they were going over some questions to ask yourself every single day. And one of them is, am I 100% in? I remember being like, hell no, I'm not 100% in. I didn't get 100% in until about 2 years in. That's where I actually ended up, because I was working in their home office in Seattle. And then I ended up moving to Boise, Idaho. And so I was, in my mind, that was the middle of nowhere. And I was like, man, I've never been to Idaho. I don't even know what I'm doing out here. But it got me to get a lot more serious and a lot more dialed in, because for me, it was about eliminating distractions. Got away from friends, I was partying plenty there at age 22, 23.
Yeah.
So getting away from that really helped me get dialed in and get a lot more focused. That's where I got a lot more serious, picked up a lot more skills when it came to building teams.
Yeah, and that's why so many sales organizations will take salespeople from their home market, send them somewhere else for a month, and they'll just tear it up because they're not around all their distractions. You know what I mean? So, you know, we're planning a blitz right now because of that. You know, our guys have a hang of solar now. They're good at it. We feel like they can sell it anywhere, and we just need that. You know, maybe for like a week, we're gonna go hit one of the other Texas markets that we're not in right now, and just work, and the guys are going to make a bunch of money, you know what I'm saying? And then come home and enjoy themselves again. So.
Yes. I've found most salespeople like that lifestyle. They like to sprint, jam, hit it hard for a week, a couple weeks, a month, and then give them time to relax and come back to it and then go hit it hard again. Like, a lot of guys operate pretty well under that.
Well, and sometimes like me and Wayne, my partner, forget that because we're family men and we're home every night for dinner. You know what I'm saying?
You're used to routine.
Yeah, I'm used to a routine. I'm used to a discipline in the mornings every day and doing my thing or whatever. And we travel, you know, for development and stuff like that, but not for sales or whatever. So, yeah, 100%. So you move to Boise. You start dialing in your disciplines, start dialing in your processes and systems and stuff. And then was that your first 100K year, or when did you get a taste of what sales had to offer?
Well, so here was the big difference for me in Idaho was that is where I started getting some real life mentorship that I hadn't had before. So I started working with a guy named Rick Mansfield, phenomenal guy. In fact, I need to reach out to him. I haven't talked to that guy in years. But what happened was he was the kind of guy that, I forget his exact age, not that it matters exactly. He was like late 50s when I met him. But he was the kind of guy that made a bunch of money, retired at like 55 or so, and basically got bored after 3-4 years of just golfing all the time. And he said he was just chilling and he literally got bored. So he came back to work. And it was really cool because he always emphasized, he's like, look, guys, I don't need to be here. I choose to be here. I'm here because I want to impart my wisdom, my experience. You know, I want you guys to get ahead in life and in business further, you know, faster by learning from the mistakes and challenges and things that I've been through. Yeah. So working directly with someone like that was huge for me at that time, because my belief in that company was really waning. And I was considering leaving. I wasn't really dialed in. Then once I met him and saw how he operated, that got me to understand the company on a whole new level, understand the mission of what we were doing, understand that you could do sales morally and ethically and, you know, feel good about it. In fact, one of my favorite concepts that he taught me that I still think about to this day is he said that you want to make sure that in your recruiting process, you have, in training process, that you have no blood on your hands. And what he meant by that was that you need to be able to look at somebody that they end up leaving your organization, that they cannot say you gave me the wrong expectation or you did not set me up for success. You want to know that you have an interview process that's thorough, that the expectations are clear, that the training is sufficient, that when somebody comes through that process, they can say, you've set me up for success. It's now on me to make it or not.
Right.
But if you have a sloppy interview process, sloppy training, it's not streamlined, it's not, consistent. Some people get really well trained, some people don't. And now someone wants to come and complain. Sometimes you have to look yourself in the mirror and say, damn, I do have some blood in my hands. I did mess this one up. And my goal is just to make sure I never feel that way. I always give somebody clear expectations, good training, so they know that it's on them to succeed or not at that point.
Yeah, I talk about that a lot because the tough part about it is so many people hire their first salesperson, then they create the sales program,
Right.
And so they're doing everything basically as they go, which is how it works in entrepreneurship a lot of times. But if you can help it, create your sales program first and then funnel about 3 to 5 recruits through it. This is like sales organization numbers. You know what I mean? If you have a sales team of 2, it's going to be a little different, but work for 30 to 60 days, then audit the program again. And then work for another 90, audit the program again, work for another 6 months, audit the program again. And one of the things that we like to do, and that I was emphasizing to a client earlier today, was the exit survey process. So whenever the salesperson leaves the company, that doesn't mean they're dead to you anymore. They have valuable information, and they haven't given it to you yet. And you definitely want to give them to give it to you instead of Google reviews or Glassdoor or one of these other review sites. So you text them a referral link, not from you, from a texting service, right? You text them a referral link and a referral survey link and encourage them to survey the company and then let them leave comments at the end. Now, sometimes they leave some nasty stuff, you know what I mean? Because people are people, you know what I mean? But sometimes they leave some valuable information that can help you refine your sales program. So 100% believe in that. That's great advice that he gave you at a very early age, for sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's that. And here's another piece of my story too that happened was within a couple months of actually being at that company. So it was a pretty large. I was at the largest agency of this company. So it was a company, or the agency itself was in 22 states. It was fairly successful. The guy that was the chairman, I remember because I got invited to a lunch with him and he told me, he's like, I make $20 million a year. He's like, I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just letting you know that's where I'm
what's
at.
Possible. He's letting you know what's possible. Yeah.
Right. But what happened, he actually picked me and this other guy, Trevor, and he said, you guys have been handpicked to within your first year hit management and have at least a team of 5 people. And I remember being at 22 being like, I don't even know if I want to be here. I don't even know if I want to be in management. I don't know what's going on. So I got accelerated into this management track and this team building track that I didn't even sign up for. And so I remember the time kind of being frustrated because I did feel like it deterred from me learning sales because I was so quickly put into, hey, doing interviews.
Yeah.
Yes, interviewing, training. And this was an insurance company that did interviews 5 days a week, every single week.
Oh, one of those.
So but I stayed there for 6 years because I wanted the experience.
Yeah.
So by the time I left there, I was 28 or so, and I've done thousands of interviews.
Yep.
Thousands, between phone interviews, first interviews, group interviews, final interviews. In fact, I was even there when they were creating that interview process. I got to be one of their guinea pigs when they were testing out what time of day should we do them, how many should we do, what's the structure of how should we do this. But 22 years old, that was really cool. Like I said, it did distract me from sales and making money, but I was really excited to pick up a skill set that I knew was going to be a lifetime skill set.
Absolutely. No, to this day, we're still refining our interview process, and we're actually changing it now. It was, body count equals bank account before. Now it's more like, okay, we want 6-figure producers, so we're interviewing one-on-one again versus group. We're doing disc assessments and all that stuff.
John, I have a very clear idea of an interview process, simple and clear of what I think anyone should use.
Awesome.
Want you to review that real quick?
Let's walk through it. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so I'm really big on keeping it simple as a 3-step interview process.
Okay.
So the first step is inviting somebody in. So typically that's done on the phone if you have a resume, right? So if you're getting resumes online or Indeed or wherever you're getting your resumes from, you're calling a person. And the main purpose of that call is just to get them to show up to your office for an in-person interview.
Okay.
I'd like to ask a couple real little interview questions in there, but it's more just to see, can this person even speak? Because especially if they're hiring for sales, you want people that can carry
walk and chew gum at the same time. That's our qualification.
I can at least maybe that much just to even show up at my door, right? If they just very rarely do I not invite somebody in just from even the initial phone call. Pretty much the goal is to get them in, to give them enough information, ask a couple questions so they can tell it's serious, they're engaged and they want to show up. Because then the alternative then is when you invite people in via word of mouth. So not everything has to be a phone call. It could be somebody you just met out in the field. It could be family and friends. It could be whoever you talk to, and you talk to them and invite them in for an interview. So the whole point is the first step is just invite somebody in for an in-person interview. From there, then the initial interview, that is where you get really clear on a couple things. And there's two halves to it. The first half is getting to know them. And then the second half is sharing about you and your organization and the opportunity. Mm-hmm. Right. So in that first half, you want to get really clear on core values. So that's where I realized it's funny joining Apex and reading Thomas Keenan's book, Unfuck Your Business, and how much we focus on core values. It's like, well, I've actually always focused on core values. I just didn't always call them core values.
Right.
But I actually have a list of 5 that I've used for a long time. I'm always looking for people that are hardworking, positive attitude, coachable, driven, and a genuine interest in helping other people. And so I've created questions that revolve around those 5 in my first half of my interview. But whatever your core values are, you want to create questions where you say, hey, can you give me an example of where you've been hardworking? Or can you give me an example of where your positive attitude has turned a negative situation around? Stuff like that. I mean, it can be really simple, but you want to get them just to talk and see if they even align with your core values. Because if they give answers that are just totally off, you might say this person isn't the right fit. But that's what you're doing in that first half. And that's where I'm really getting the heat on if I think I even want to hire this person.
Right.
Because if they bomb that section, then I'm probably going to end the interview. Right. But if they're answering the questions right, the core values look like they're in alignment so far, then I get into the back half, which is now I'm going to tell them about the opportunity.
So I want to point out something. And I don't think a lot of people realize this, especially consulting clients and just, people that have sales organizations in general. That interview process is a sale. What Absolutely. You just described. Intro, qualify is the first half, and then present and close is the second half. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Because look, we don't have people beating down the doors to work with us, right? You know what I'm saying? Not typically. At certain times in my career, I have had that because the cult, or I guess the sales culture hears about you, kind of thing, and they want to come in, but for the most part, it is a sale, and you're trying to close it. So I've always structured my interview processes the same exact way. So
what I was going to say, the first half, you are buying them, and then the second half, they're buying you.
Right.
For sure. Right. And so, so the second half, you're going to break down, things just about, listen to your podcast. I love your phrase one-sheeters, man. I've been creating one-sheeters for a while. I call them one-sheeters, but I love it, right?
Heck yeah.
Some real simple stuff. You show people how they get paid. What are the expectations? What's the typical schedule? What's an appointment like when they're actually out in the field? Tell them a little bit about that.
Mm-hmm.
Tell them what's expected. Hey, you got to memorize a script or not, or whatever the expectations are to get the job down.
Right.
There's a promotion track. Get into that a little bit, right? Talk about some of the future development they could be a part of. Get them excited for that future growth. So, but the point is to be really brutally clear, brutally real. I'm so big on that. I'm so tired of people that sugarcoat stuff in their interviews and trying to gloss stuff over. I'd rather just be directly blunt with people and have them say, oh yeah, this is what I like, I'm in, versus something where you try to gloss it over and then they come in and they're like, this wasn't what I really thought. And it just gets weird. I always suggest, and I always emphasize, just be brutally honest in your interviews. You're going to be so much happier.
It's so uncomfortable. And I know exactly what you're talking about, because when I first took over the company, I kept hearing about this other company, and it was Sidcore. Have you heard of them?
I don't know that name. No.
They're a huge AT&T dealer, and then they've done a bunch of other stuff too. But basically, they're a sales organization, right? And so the way they do it is they hire from college graduates, right? Kind of like the insurance company, right? They hire from college graduates. And they go through a 3-step interview process. And the 3rd round interview is them going out to the field. And it's the first time that the applicant even knows that it's door to door. You want to talk about uncomfortable.
You pull them in that far.
Yeah.
By the way, this is what it is.
Yeah. And so they're like, okay, we're going to go prospecting right now. They still don't say door to door at that point. You know what I'm saying? And so I agree with you 100%. We try to scare them out of the position, especially now that we want 6-figure earners. We try to scare them out of the position. And if they don't scare easily, we're in good shape.
Absolutely, right? I mean, I want fearless people around me in sales, people who aren't afraid to ask the closing questions and walk up to a stranger, right? I mean, you need people that have that confidence. And so, it's something where people, if they use that, I'll tell you, man, the sales environment has changed a lot in the last 10 plus years.
Really has.
I mean, I think it's contributed to movies like Boiler Room and Wolf of Wall Street. Like, they popularized the idea of that salesperson, that crazy salesperson. Right?
Yeah.
But they've got people to think and be more open-minded about sales. I mean, yes, there's the very sleazy side of it, but I think it's got people to be more open-minded, because when I first started doing interviews, talking to people about commission, it was like, hell no. Like, people were so adverse to it.
Right.
And nowadays people are much more open-minded to commission and realizing that's the path to unlimited income, freedom, autonomy, all those things. And so nowadays, for sure, if somebody asks if it's commission, I'm like, hell yeah, it's commission. It's sales. Like, were you expecting anything different? And nobody really balks at that anymore. Versus 10 years ago, a lot of people still balked at it. So that's the cool thing, is I feel like you can be a lot more direct, and you're going to find the hungry people that are out there.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. 10 years ago, I spent so much money and time on legitimizing our company because we were door-to-door sales. I had to make sure that we didn't follow that I guess the culture that door-to-door sales had created at that point, which was, the square office, 300 square feet, a whiteboard, 4 chairs, the light that flickers, you know what I mean? And then hopefully you got paid on time. You know what I'm saying?
They interviewed you at Starbucks and you didn't see the office.
Yeah, exactly. So we spent so much time legitimizing, we spent a lot of money on office space, that's for sure. Because that was the biggest thing. When you walked into our office, we wanted you to be impressed. We had we were on the 17th floor of an 18th floor office building. And the only reason we weren't on the 18th floor is because some injury lawyer had the whole floor, right? And so when you walked in, it was glass doors, beautiful logo in the background and everything. And now half our team works remote, and they could care less about the office space, It's one of those things.
That's true. I was going to say, before it's worth for having an office space, I'm a big believer in your interview process. If you want to attract A+ candidates, like you yourself need to be A+, just how you look, how you carry yourself. The office space, the way you're describing right, needs to look A+. Like, it needs to be something where people are like, whoa, this looks like money. It looks like success. People are doing well.
Yeah.
I think that's an important part of interviewing, is just the environment, right? How it feels, how it looks, how they're greeted even when they first show up to your office. My first line, this was a scripted line from back in my insurance days, but I still use it to this day. When someone first sits down for the interview, I'm like, hey, sit back, relax. We're not making any hiring decisions as of today. This is just a second step in a 3-step process. It's an opportunity to get to know you get to know us. We'll see if there's even any potential fit here. It's like, try to make it just like a relaxed environment. Because a lot of people walk in real nervous.
Yeah.
They're real uncomfortable. They've been out there interviewing a bunch of people, being told no, whatever they're doing. They're transitioning from something where they weren't happy. They've been unemployed for a while, so they're not very happy. Like, my whole goal is you want them to feel comfortable and realize that this is a situation where people are making money, and it is going to require hard work.
100%. It has shifted so much, though, from like 10 years ago, hasn't it? Like, in terms of their attitude coming in, like, they are so much more entitled coming in now. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, wait, it's not remote. I can't make 50 grand a year for sitting on my ass in my living room. You know what I'm saying? Wait, why would I work here? I'm sorry, we're not Amazon.
That's what core values help weed that out,
Yeah.
right? You got to be clear if you want hard workers or high performers, whatever you want. Like, you got to be. That's why that first half is so important, because I won't even waste my time telling about everything we do if I don't see the first half.
So many people and companies are so happy to get a commission-centric salesperson that they don't qualify, and they don't know anything about them when they hire them. They're just like, oh, put you in a seat and you go sell, or put you out in the field and you go sell. And they spend so much time micromanaging and overmanaging that person, and then dealing with, hiring another person to replace them over and over again, instead of just qualifying on the front end and then having the right candidate in the right seat, when it really matters. So there's a lot of that going on right now. So going back to your insurance days, when did you transition out of insurance?
So that ended for me in like May of 2016. And so I took that summer, actually, I just drove for Uber. I was just driving around so I basically did Uber on like evenings and weekends, and was job hunting during the day. But it was nice. I kind of just took the summer. I was pretty burnt out after being there for 6 years and busting my ass, and had gotten pretty far up in the company. Realized it just wasn't the kind of people I wanted to be around. It was really a cultural thing. Once I got near the top, I was like, these aren't really the people I want to spend the rest of my life with. I've been here for 6 years. I think I've learned everything I need. I'm ready to move on.
Walk through that a little bit. I mean, this isn't a national podcast show, so I don't think any of those people are going to hear this. Like, what was the issues culturally when you got up there? I'm curious about this, because this has been a big subject for me the last couple of weeks.
So here's what appealed to me when I first got to the company. Is I remember hearing one of the senior guys talk about how he described it as a meritocracy. where he said that promotions weren't based on your time with the company or anything like that, who you knew. It was based on results. That's how he described it. It was based on your merit. It's based on what value did you bring, what results did you achieve. That's how you got promoted. And that was true at that company to a point. Mm-hmm. You could do that to get so far, but then the next half of the ladder, it was who they liked. It was completely who they liked, completely political. So once I got into that level of it, I was like, oh, like this isn't what I want to be around. This is not how we described it from the beginning.
Yeah.
And it just didn't sit well with me. And I got invited to some of the higher level stuff and I don't know, just it was a lot of heavy partying and stuff that at the time I was like, cool, this is what I just want to party. But looking backwards, I don't even like the party really at all anymore. I wish I was a little bit more dialed in back then. If I had leaders around me that were more dialed in, showing me some different things, I think I'd be potentially in a different place. But I just kind of followed that culture for a while. Then after a little bit, I was like, this doesn't feel right. That's why I ended up leaving.
In 2016, I was doing the same shit, brother. So I was right there with you. Yeah.
Well, here's my thing. My last year or two, I was really getting dragged around too. I was all in the Portland area, but I went from one office to another, and I was just getting dragged around. And I was surprised. I had a team that actually stayed with me for all these moves. It was only like within like an hour or whatever of each other.
But still
I was
moving.
I held on to the people I held on to. When you want to go into some details, I have some crazy stories of some of these offices I got moved into. They kept putting me in extremely toxic situations. And that's where I realized, I was like, these guys don't value me. They keep just dogging me around, dragging me around.
Just a piece they're moving around, just a night on the board.
I felt it. Yeah. And I got to the point at the end of 2015 where my entire team had just collapsed. I had nothing. And I was like, and I thought to myself, I was like, I'm a hardworking motherfucker. Like I'm always going to find a way to win. And I could build from scratch and, put in my blood, sweat, and tears and build up again. But I was like, but why do it here where I can tell I'm not valued? I don't love what's going on. Mm-hmm. And that's why I knew it was time to go.
Gotcha. So you were driving for Uber. I'm guessing just like the mentor that you had got bored, when he retired, you got bored driving for Uber. So where did the next opportunity come?
I wasn't just looking to keep driving for Uber. My goal was to find something.
Okay. So you were actively looking.
Oh yeah. I was actively looking the whole time. So I was looking at anything. I wasn't looking at just sales at the time. I remember one of the positions that intrigued me the most was an event planner for the zoo. I was like, that sounds kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like throw big like sponsored events. You're gonna go get down like business sponsors that come throw their events like at the zoo. And I was like, that sounds kind of fun. I could get into that. So submitted my resume. I had no experience in that, and so they did not ever contact me.
The one that got away.
Right. I was interviewing like all these random things, and then finally I was like, you know what? I love sales. Like that's my passion. That's what I want to stay in sales. I don't want to get back in insurance. So I was like, so what do I do next? And so I just kept interviewing around. I interviewed with one company that was a home improvement company that did roofing and windows, and they did not hire me. They invited me to a second interview and did not hire me. And then I interviewed with a second home improvement company. This day, it was one of the funniest experiences of my life. Because here I am, I got us done thousands of interviews, trained tons of other people. Like I know all the dynamics of interviewing. And so I sat in my first interview with these two guys, and I could very clearly see it was the manager training the like up and coming new manager.
Right.
And that was the dynamic. And I'll never forget during the interview when they got to the tough questions of like, hey, are you okay with like commission? I was like, hell yeah, man, I wouldn't want it any other way. And they're like, oh, wow, that's awesome. That's exciting.
They're getting all excited.
The schedule there was Tuesday through Saturday. They're like, how do you feel about working like a Tuesday through Saturday schedule, like evenings and weekends? I was like, bro, I'll work 7 days a week. Like, let's go. Like, I'm hungry. Like, sign me up. And they're like, whoa, my gosh, he's cool with working all the time. So they were getting all jazzed and excited. And so it's funny because I'm very good friends with that guy to this day who was the junior guy at the time. He actually ended up being my direct manager.
Nice.
And I was his first ever hire. And I'm like, I'm not the first person you ever hired, bro. Like that is not normal. You do not find people like me just interviewing around that gets to be your first hire. So still a good friend of mine to this day. We still talk pretty often. And but it was funny because he was my manager, but I'm a few years older than him, more experienced than him. Like right from day one, I was able to. Well, he taught me how the company works, and because that's the thing. When I first came into the industry, what was top of mind for me was I told myself I want to spend 1 year as a rep. I want to learn the industry. Yeah, I want to like soak it in. I want to learn the industry, the product, the company, how all this works. Like this is all brand new to me. I mean, I know sales. I know in-home sales. I've done in-home sales the whole time, but I didn't know the roofing industry. That was all brand new to me, and I was learning it from scratch. And so I'm glad I took that year just to really dive into it, really learn it. And then even since joining Apex, I've realized there's so much more to it than I ever realized because I was just doing all retail out west before I even knew what insurance work was. So there's all different sides to roofing. But it took a year. And then at the end of that year is when they said they had a program to become a GM in training. And I was like, perfect. I want to go run my own branch, be a general manager.
Yeah.
Signed up for that program, ended up getting delayed a year. Supposed to open a branch in 2019. That got delayed until then 2020. And that's what I did is I opened a branch in Reno, Nevada. And it was badass, man. I built a really awesome sales team.
Yeah, and that was kind of so, to this day your peak as far as the sales team size and everything.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Yeah, I was running this branch. We got up to about 15 salespeople. I mean, it was badass. We built it from scratch, opened in February 2020. So it was literally a month before the pandemic broke out.
Was it all door to door?
No. So the company had a call center.
Okay.
So what's interesting is when I hear other contractors complain about Home Advisor, I worked for a company that we dominated Home Advisor.
Yeah.
Like I was the guy that you guys all hated.
Yeah.
Because this company would go, they'd be the first one out there. That was always the goal. I mean, they would call immediately. People would say they'd enter the information on Home Advisor within 10 seconds. They had somebody like phone calling.
Nice.
And the goal is to be the first one out there, show them something so amazing that they want to buy, and they buy on one call close.
Who is your team in that process? Was it the person that went out or the person that answers the phone?
So yeah, the people that answered the phones were always remote to me. I
Okay.
never had any direct involvement with them. I trained salespeople that then went to scheduled appointments. So that's what was really badass for recruiting was, hey, we have scheduled appointments that you show up to. But
So they didn't have to knock doors? Or they did? They knocked
no,
doors
salespeople
after
didn't
the
have to.
appointments? Wow.
So here's the thing. It created, but I was not a big
Lazy.
fan of this. It created a lead junkie mentality. People are just hooked on these leads, man. They just wanted more leads versus I was really big on training salespeople to be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
In fact, I always love it when Ryan Stevens says that the two skills you need to be a salesperson is the ability to generate a lead and the ability to close. And if you can't do both, you're not a salesperson. And so what's interesting is I was really big on pushing that salespeople needed to knock doors and generate their own leads. My whole vision, I know I'm still going to build this someday, is to build out a sales organization that doesn't need company generated leads. That can, and I think the company should generate leads. I've had all kinds of thoughts about this recently. But like they should go to top performers. There should be some sort of qualifier. You have to be here for a certain amount of time, achieve a certain amount of result. Then you qualify to get these company leads. Now you'll appreciate it because you know that it was earned. Because the thing is, if you just give out leads, that's the other thing too. Is those leads cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
But for someone who just gets it for free, the value is not the same.
No. Absolutely.
Right. Versus when you knock that door or you had to earn that lead somehow, like now you're like, I'm not going to mess this up. So I put in some blood and sweat just to get this thing in the first place. So that's something that I'm a big believer is teach people how to do things, knocking doors, generating leads online, social media, like community events, like just get out there and referrals, of course, like do what you can to generate your own leads and feed yourself and run your own schedule.
So I'll kind of tell you what we do and the way that we structure it on the solar side is, so you've got the setter, right? And the setter makes a certain amount. And what we try to do is whenever we generate company leads, we try to get it to where the cost per appointment is the same amount as the setter costs, because that's what you're paying for.
Sure.
You're paying for an appointment from the setter, or you're paying for an appointment from the company lead. And so that's the first piece of it. And then once you get to closer, you're getting appointments from your setters, right? And we want the closers to be dialed in because a solar close is complicated and there is some project management on the back end. So we need them to be experts at that, not generating the lead, right? But the closers have to generate a certain amount of their own leads before they reach that point where they're getting company generated leads, right?
Perfect.
So they're managing the setters, they're training the setters, they're generating their own leads. And then once they get to a certain gross volume amount, then they get access to those company leads, which again, cost per acquisition is the same as if it was a setter. So Wayne said something the other day that was just really impactful for me. And he was like, I'd rather, because he's a door-to-door guy through and through. You know what I mean? He's like, I'd rather that cost per appointment go to an individual within the company that money is going to make an impact versus going to this marketing company, the lead gen company, SEO costs, Google search rankings, whatever the case is. And I was like, man, you know what? Like, that's why you're my partner right there. You know what I mean? Because that is so true. So there was a question asked in Sales Talks with Solar Pros today, which is a ripoff of Ryan's group, but whatever, we won't talk about that. But it's a great group because there's all kinds of crap thrown around in there. But these baited posts always happen where they're like, would you prefer door-to-door or lead gen? when closing solar or whatever. And of course, a bunch of people are on there. Everybody's on the lead gen hype right now. And because they can sell solar in their boxers and make $300,000 a year, how many people are actually doing that? We'll see.
Right.
But from a company owner standpoint, it's just different. You know what I'm saying? Because you're taking all the risk and spending all that marketing dollars and then hoping that your systems can convert and that you can set quality appointments, right?
Right.
Anyways, so I was thinking about both things and I went back to it. I was like, man, it would be door to door for me because I know every dollar that we earn in that solar deal is going towards somebody in my company because it's a company generated lead,
Yeah.
So that's pretty
I was going to say my answer, and this is just how I work, is both.
Yeah.
Maximize everything. I'm a big proponent of saying push every button, put your foot on every pedal, just smash it all as much as you can. Now, granted, do that in a controlled manner. I'm not saying you have to do it chaotically, but
we're about
maximize everything because based on the economy, based on your region, based on who knows what, there's going to be ebbs and flows, seasonality, right? There's going to be times where door knock is not as effective or the online stuff's not as effective.
Right.
If one starts to fall, it's that redundancy of having options of how you generate leads.
100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree more because that's one thing we have never given up on the lead gen piece. We've got it down to about $2,000 per customer acquisition, which is, about $500 too high for the solar industry. But we're about $30,000 in. We've been playing with it for 3 or 4 months. You know what I mean? And it has generated some quality closes for our guys, but 80% of our stuff comes from door to door. You know what I'm saying? So we're testing it out. We're playing with it. We turn it off every now and then and it's hyper focus on door to door recruiting, training, especially right now during the summer months. Like you said, there's certain times. And then when the winter months come around, we'll probably lean on lead gen a little more because it gets dark at 5:30. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. So
it is wild how much darkness makes a difference for door knocking.
Oh, hell yeah.
It can be dark for half an hour and people are like, why are you out here so late? You're like, it's 6 o'clock.
I was out here
at 8:30 and they're like, yeah, what's up? The sun's out. Hey, the sunlight makes a big difference, man.
Absolutely. So going back to the home advisor and then the in-home model. So you were saying that it created these lead junkies. How did you combat that? Because I have not consulted for a company yet that the salesperson generates their own leads. So I don't, it's hard for me to explain to them that hey, take that customer acquisition cost, or the cost per lead, or the customer acquisition cost, and let them go out and self-generate for 20% of the time. Let them, whether it's telemarketing, whether it's networking, whether it's door knocking, whatever the medium is that's best for your business. B2B is typically the one that I'm talking about, but it's door to door, but for businesses, right?
Right.
Let them go out and do that for 20% of the time, and then pay them that customer acquisition cost whenever they get a new customer. You're spending it anyways on your lead gen.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But now you have more control over the volume, right? So then you create an entry-level tier that is nothing but self-gen, right? And once they cut their teeth in self-gen and they make money that way, then you start giving them company leads like we talked about. But so
that's the structure I believe in.
Yeah, but you're starting out backwards. They're already getting the company leads. So how did you keep them hungry?
It was a culture of winning. Okay. And that was the cool thing that I developed. It was like I said, one of the things I said in the interview was I'm looking for people who are hungry. And I was really clear about that. I was like, I can't put the fire in your belly. Right. You've got to have some hunger. And it doesn't matter where you're at. You just want to be better. I don't care if you're somebody who's used to making 50,000 and you want to get to 100. I don't care if you're somebody who's used to making 100 and wants to get to 200. Wherever you are, do you want to get better? Do you want to level up? Do you have that hunger? Mm-hmm. So I was really clear about that in my interview. Because here's the thing. The thing about interviewing, first of all, is that there's no perfect process, right? Nobody has that magic ball they can look at and be like, this is the perfect hire. I asked all the right questions. They're going to make it. Believe me, I've made plenty of bad hires. But the cool thing is when you build it right and you have the right culture, the good ones stick. Yeah, and the people that don't really fit, they end up just kind of washing away. They realize, oh, I'm not as hardworking as everyone here. Oh, I'm not as ambitious. I'm not as hungry. I don't really fit this. And they just stop coming around. Sometimes they'll show up and say, hey, I'm out. But they do not last. They quickly realize. That's the cool thing is once you have a good culture going, they do not last. And so for me, I never had this thought until I just thought about it right now. I guess maybe almost like one of the blessings of the pandemic was, so I had to stop hiring for a couple months. Yeah. So at first I hired a handful of people, like 4 or 5, but then a couple of them fell off and it was just me and 2 guys. Yeah. And that was for about 2 months in the beginning of this branch. and we were only getting 1 or 2 leads a day. And we were told, if you guys don't do well, wasn't given an exact metric, but if you guys don't do well, we will have to shut down your branch.
Right.
Because it's just brand new and we don't want to pump resources into it.
Rent,
what's going on, who knows?
Yeah.
Right. So what happened was my branch in Reno and the Las Vegas branch opened simultaneously because it was a state license in Nevada. Right. So once we got our Nevada license, we both opened and we were both told the same message. And we were getting like 1 or 2 leads a day, and we were finding ways to close them. I mean, I actually kept a journal the whole time, so I've recorded every single sale that we made. We were constantly just 1 lead made a sale, 2 leads made a sale, 2 leads made 2 sales. It's like day after day after day. It was awesome. So I had these 2 guys that I trained to just be killers from the beginning because it was just down to me and them, and I just poured into them. And it was kind of funny because I couldn't go out in the field with them. That was the whole thing. It was like pandemic, not supposed to be together. You gotta stay separate if someone gets sick, so you're quarantined from each other. So if someone gets sick, like not everybody has to be out.
Right.
And so I had to stay away from them. So I did a lot of like armchair quarterback sales coaching where I was just like, they'd be in the field, and they'd go out, step out of the house and call me like, hey, this is the situation that's going on. I'll be like, cool. Here's the objection that they're saying. This is what I can tell they're saying. Here's how you're gonna go in there and handle it. I'd give them exact word tracks of what to go say in the house. And it worked. And we were just closing, and it was beautiful. And so my branch never got shut down. I take a lot of pride. Vegas branch got shut down. They had to go down to Phoenix for a month or 2. And we kept it going the whole time. So those guys, one of them is actually still working there. One of them did go down to the San Diego branch. He's not there anymore. But like we took a lot of pride in holding that thing down and holding it open. And then come May, we were able to start hiring again. And even some of those people, there's one of those guys that's still there from that period.
Yeah, I can't imagine, basically the proving period that happened during that COVID time, because we had the same thing. We had probably 50 people going into COVID and then 20 coming out of it, right? Because we could only guarantee so many salaries, from the PPP rounds and all that kind of stuff. Right. But at the end of the day, the 20 that came out of it were just beasts. You know what I mean? They were monsters,
Yes.
And because they got through it. And we were like cold calling the phone book to make deals. You know what I'm saying? We were totally breaking telemarketing laws. What is it? The FTC, if you're listening. I did not just say that. But we were doing whatever we had to make it,
you had to get scrappy.
Yeah. We got super scrappy during that time. And then when we came out of it, those guys were just dialed in and we started recruiting again, and it blew up again.
That's what I'm saying. So I had those guys who were just dialed in. They were hungry. They were winning. And that really helped set the foundation for then now as we built and brought on more people, they saw them winning. They wanted to be part of it and just stayed hungry. Gotcha. So the foundation makes all the difference. It makes a huge difference having the right culture, the right people, not letting the wrong people stick around. Like I said, I had some bad hires here and there. Didn't let them stick around. I mean, one of the biggest points of pride that I had, there's a few, but one of them was that we had the lowest turnover in the company. I mean, my last year, we lost 2 or 3 people. That was it. And I did not have to do revolving hiring because my team stuck and crushed it. It was really cool to see.
Yeah, and it becomes a lot different. You develop a different skill set at that point because now your skill set is mentorship and mindset training, right? Versus before, you're always doing the initial training and the initial success and then trying to keep them after 90 days after they have that initial success and they realize, oh, crap, I'm a salesperson. I can go work for all these different companies and shiny object, So that's what you're doing for so long. But then when you get that core group of guys, now you're mentoring, you're developing them, you're growing them, you know what I'm saying, versus the people under them, right? And so that's probably my favorite piece of the journey now is developing others to succeed the way that you did when you were in your early 20s,
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, you just mentioned, right, once salespeople are equipped and realize they can work anywhere in sales. Actually the quote I have behind me here this is something I made for myself for my birthday in January 2021. Nice. It is Richard Branson. My favorite quote on business comes from Richard Branson. It's train people well enough so they can leave, treat them well enough so they don't want to.
Yeah. And
I love that mentality because that's so savage to me. That's the mentality I always have with my people, was I would train them to be so good that they could go sell anywhere. Right. But then I treat them so well, they're like, well, why would I leave? Because nobody's going to treat me as well as you do.
Right.
And so that was, I learned a lot about myself running that branch that I didn't even know. And one of actually my biggest epiphanies, which worked out beautifully, is I actually allow my commission salespeople to take off whenever they want. As much time as they want. They can take half a day off any given day, any week, I had a guy, one of my top guys, he'd take a month off at least once or twice a year. And I realized, I was like, I would rather have people that when they show up to work that day, they're hungry. They're dialed in. They want it. So even that morning, someone wakes up and says, hey, I'm not feeling it. Cool. Get the fuck off my schedule. Because I got plenty of other people here who are hungry and they're going to go get it. And that's how we just kept winning all the time. But then what my reps appreciated about it was they would go hard, but then if they got tired, they knew they could take a rest.
Yeah.
Hey, take a day off. You got doctor's appointments or family stuff. Like, yeah, man, go have half a day. Like, I never gave anyone any grief for taking any time off. I said, take all the time you want off. Because at the end of the day, if you're really hungry, you'll get the results. And if you're not, you'll fall off. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. One of the things that we instituted in our employee handbook about 6 months ago was unlimited vacation.
It is beautiful. Reps appreciate it so much. And that's where my reps are like, why would I leave? Why would I have someone tell me my schedule, boss me around? You know, we did have weekly sales meetings that people were required to come to. I mean, they can miss every now and again, but I made a real big point. Like, look, I asked for one time for like 2 hours once a week. Like, please do what you can not to miss that. It was Fridays from 10 to noon. Like, that was the one time I said, that's the only time of yours I asked for. The rest of the week is yours.
Right.
So people were good about attending those. And we had badass meetings. They were fun. I can go over the structure of a sales meeting if you want. Like, I have a very dialed in, very simple structure, very effective, and it made it very easy to plan for and have a very fun meetings that people want to show up to. Yeah,
let's walk through that real quick, and then I want to transition to what's happening now.
Sure. So so 5 steps to a sales meeting. This is something actually, again, it goes back to my insurance days, but I dialed it in running with the roofing company running my branch, and it was great. So 5 steps to an effective sales meeting. Number 1 is fun, right? So start with something fun, get people engaged, get them going. It's also good to start with fun because you spend the first 10, 15 minutes doing something like that. So even if you do have someone who shows up late, if they show up 5 minutes late, you're not like right in the middle of a speech, you're in the middle of a game.
Right.
So not that I like people being late, but we know how salespeople are, so people are getting late every now and again. So just kind of something to roll in, build a game.
Let's not BS. They're late a lot.
Right? Let's call it what it is. So start with something fun. It could be, and I love creating sales games. And I've seen some of the games that you guys created. What was like Ghetto Jeopardy? I saw a post the other day. Like, I love stuff like that. Coming up with these fun games, and I do what I could to try to make them sales oriented. So sometimes I bring like random objects from my house and make people sell it. And then I would always give you $20. Like, hey, whoever wins, I'll buy your lunch today. Here's $20 to go buy lunch. Right. Stuff like that. So fun's the first part. Then announcements, right? So you got to do your house cleaning. You got to go over, hey, here's things that are changing. I need you guys to sign this new addendum to your pay plan. I need you guys to recognize that this is going on in the economy. Let's talk about
company news.
Changing us.
Yeah.
Right. Company news, just things that are going on, right? So you got to do your house cleaning. So these are kind of 2 of the most just kind of straightforward things. Do something fun, get your announcements out. From there, the next one, which is huge in sales, is recognition. So I was really big on weekly recognition. So we would recognize anyone that did over 25,000 in gross sales from the last week because they were pacing for 100,000 in gross sales, right, for the month. Right. So that was always a good pace because they usually net 70 to 80,000. And when somebody's making that money, they're usually pretty close, especially if they're over 80,000 on par for making $100,000 in a year. So I always recognize that 25,000 a week in gross sales. They got their name shouted out. And I always did it in order. So if there was 5 people over that mark, I'd do number 5, number 4, number 3, number 2, number 1. It's fun. And then just top, if it was the end of the month, talk about the top monthly performers from the last month. Usually just recognize if somebody had like a badass sale that week, because I was talking
war stories.
Yeah, I've had a good story. I'd be like, dude, this guy had an awesome one. This gal had an awesome one. I'd call them out like, hey, can you share your story? Tell me about that one you had on Thursday, on Tuesday, whatever day. So recognition is a really important part. Salespeople thrive on that. 4th, and from there is education or training. Right. So pour into your people, have a prepared topic, have a prepared either, discussion that you're going to have, series of questions you're going to do. But that's something I see a lot of people in the running meetings try to wing it. And I think that's a mistake. You want to make sure you come in prepared. Right. So have a prepared topic. For me, what I actually did in my phone the whole week long is I actually kept a notepad in my phone, a little note thing where whatever issues came up, I was always putting them in my phone. That would come up in the announcements and it would come up in the training. So if it was like a big training topic, I'd be like, whoa, everyone's having trouble with this objection. We're definitely training on this topic right now. Yeah. Hey, I keep seeing issues with this on setting their expectation for the install. Something's going on. We're going to train on that. What's the proper expectations to set at the end of the sale, right? And turn that into a training. So all throughout the week, I was preparing for my meeting the whole time. I had my 5 categories and I was just plugging pieces in all throughout the week. And then from there, the last one's motivation. Right? Always like to end the meeting on a positive note, bring up either a video or a topic or just something motivational, even just maybe an example of someone in the office that did something that helped a homeowner or help the community in some way and have them share about it and get some warm and fuzzy kind of feeling to end the meeting, something like that usually.
So we have damn near the exact same structure, except we start the meeting with motivation, we end it with fun. So it was just like the swap right there. And we had a meeting agenda too. So at one point we had 13 offices, right? So that's 13 market managers. And so what we would do is not only did we have our meeting, but we'd have a manager call like an hour before the meeting. So they would have about 30 minutes in between the manager call and the meeting to prep or re-prep. So their meeting's ready to go by the manager call. Everybody's discussing, basically the structure of their meetings and what they're going to do. Now they had company-wide, obviously news that they had to cover, and then company-wide training that they had to cover. But other than that, they got to make their own sales meeting, and they got to insert, the different stuff that they wanted to in there. And then of course, one guy would share, oh, y'all got to play this Eric Thomas speech today. You know what I'm saying? Sure. Or you got to play this Ed Milet speech today. And then everybody would play the same speech, and everybody would be hyping the sales chat on that speech or whatever the case was. It's crazy because we just saw both those guys at MDM, so it's pretty cool.
That is wild, right?
Yeah. All right.
And here's the nice thing about having a structure like that is it makes it easy to delegate, right? Yeah. So now you can start to help your up and coming leaders. In fact, that was one of my things I really like to do in my branch is between those 5 pieces, I can now assign out even just like one piece to a person at a time. Yeah. Like, hey, you're in charge of the fund today. Come up with the game. You're going to be running it. You're in front of the whole office. That may be the first one to get somebody on. Just kind of get them comfortable being in front of the whole group. Some people aren't comfortable with that right away, right? Hey, you're going to be doing the train today. Like you really got to, I want to see what topic you come prepared with. We're going to discuss it before the meeting, stuff like that. Hey, you got motivation today. And then that becomes a really fun part as the leaders. Once you start to delegate that stuff out and you're seeing other people rise up and take over. Yeah,
my managers would have, what do they call it? A huddle before the meeting. And they would bring the assistant managers in, and each of the assistant managers would be, like you just said, responsible for one piece of the meeting. And they would cover, because they were managing like 30, 40 guys in one office at a time, so some of our offices got really big, and you had to be on point, because if you lost 30 or 40 people, it was over. You weren't getting them back.
Think about how much time and energy and resources it's going to take to replace that.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome, man. So it's pretty cool to see like kind of a similar trajectory over the past 10 years, hearing the epiphanies that you had throughout the process, and I had them around the same time. So it's pretty cool. We're like-minded that way. So what is the next step for you? I know you've been itching to start your own deal now.
Man, I am. It's still a little bit up in the air because so the way things ended with my last company, I was just really in a headspace where I needed some time. So that ended in November.
Yeah.
I needed some time and it was important. I think it's important to go inward and really assess things and whatnot. But pretty much, come by about March, I was like, okay, I'm itching to go again. Like I want to get something going.
Right.
So jumped on an opportunity that brought me out here to Florida. Ended up being not quite the right fit.
Right.
It did teach, but I'm very grateful. It did teach me a lot about the insurance side of roofing because I never worked directly in the insurance side of roofing. So I got 2 months of that under my belt now.
Gotcha.
A lot of door knocking. I now understand that side of things on a whole nother level now, which is really cool to have that experience. And then, I pivoted to another role that I'm in right now, which keeps me plugged into the roofing world. And I'm doing sales, and it's all via Zoom, which is completely new to me to purely sell via Zoom.
Virtual.
So this is an interesting experience. Yeah, virtual selling. But I'm selling to contractors, so the actual owners, branding and marketing. That's geared specifically towards roofing. So it's cool. But I have that itch to start my own thing.
Yeah,
I have it. And in fact, even just last night, in fact, I have the thumb drive right here. I was reviewing, I have all these files because much like your one-sheeters, I've been creating just tons and tons of documents over the years.
Yeah.
And I have a very clear vision of exactly how I would run a very large, very successful roofing company. And I keep going back and forth of whether do I just need to dig my heels in, go start my own thing? I know it's going to take a while. I know even, for example, here in Florida, that licensing is really backed up right now.
Right.
It's just taking months to get going. It's a pretty lengthy process. It's not cheap. It's got, it's pretty involved. So I just keep asking myself, is that the route I want to go? Or do I want to see if I can find a high level role where I could really help somebody run their company, or maybe someone who just started from scratch, but doesn't really have much sales or operational experience.
Partnership opportunities. Yeah.
Right. So that's where I'm on the fence of like, is that what I'm looking for, or starting my own scratch deal? And I'm literally waffling on that right now because I want to do something soon. That's all I know.
So, the exercise that I would recommend you do.
What's that?
Have you ever heard Thomas Keenan talk about his perfect day?
I don't recall if I have. I can't recall off the top of my head. So
I've got some notes that I'll send you. and it's my perfect day, and then I also have Thomas's perfect day. I believe I have the notes for his perfect day, and that'll kind of give you the outline. Fill that in, and I think that'll kind of direct you where you want to go. And it's this really cool practice. You know how Ryan has the most elite version of yourself? Well, this is more dialed in. Like I wake up and I give gratitude. You know what I'm saying? I brush my teeth for 4 minutes. You know, like you got to be super detailed about every piece of it, because it really gets you thinking about, okay, what's important to me throughout the day? What's my perfect day? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I'll say this much. I've been working on my perfect day for the last year or two now. Like I have a pretty clear picture of what my perfect day looks like. In fact, for a broad framework, I got it from Rob Dyrdek. I heard this from him, and I thought I loved it because it fits the cheat code pretty well. He's a beast. He was on his podcast. I think it was with Joe Rogan. But he talked about his schedule is he sleeps for 7 hours. He starts his days with 3 hours from himself. So 3 hours of personal development. That's working out, reading, journaling, whatever you got to do, right? Then it's 7 hours of work and 7 hours of family and friends. And I was like, that to me is the perfect schedule. And so it has been on my mind to dial it, because I know my perfect schedule would be go to bed at 10, up at 5 to 8 is personal time. That's where I can work out, read, journal, those are important things to me, get all that stuff done. Then from 8 till 3, I work straight. I mean, maybe I eat lunch as I'm going, but like I'm just dialed in for 7 beast hours. But then 3 to 10 is completely set aside for family, friends, and connecting with other people.
No, that makes a lot of sense. But you can go a little bit further with it, and I'm trying to find it while we're on this, because I would love to go through it real quick. Man, I'm going to send you the notes. But when you hear mine, you kind of realize what I'm talking about. Like it's down to every 30-minute block. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What you're doing. And so mine was very much mirrored Thomas Keenan's, because I'm in my perfect day, I'm in that consulting space. You know what I'm saying? For large organizations, large sales teams and stuff like that. And then it's not just me, it's my whole team with me. You know what I mean? And so my idea has always been, okay, I've got my sales divisions and I've got my sales programs, right? But there's a consulting arm that they can feed into. So my leaders in all of my sales division can be deployed to other companies just to have a week at it doing something different. Besides leading sales teams, they can go and show another company what they do every day and how to do it in their organization. You know what I'm saying? So the consulting piece really gets them into that teaching space, which I believe is like the ultimate fulfillment. Anytime if you notice when you're teaching someone something, when you're mentoring someone, when you're leading someone, that's when you have the most fulfillment. That's something that money can't touch.
100%.
Yeah, that's that 90% money can make you happy in 90% of your life, but the other 10% is the most important. And I feel like teaching people is where that's at. So that's the consulting piece of our Denton. And I get to do it all the time. And I talk to Wayne, it's like, hey, and Wayne's like, hey, I could do that. And he's like, you absolutely could. But we're building a solar company right now, so you keep doing what you're doing.
He's got a mission.
Yeah, we both got a mission right now, so we got to get it done. But man, brother, this has been an awesome podcast, and I got a feeling you're going to get about 5 partnership offers after we get off of this, and I'm sure you get job offers all the time and stuff like that. So definitely after everybody just heard you were available. So
right, that's pretty much what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. Right. All right, brother. Well, I appreciate you coming on the call. If somebody does want to reach out to you, they can go to Alex Keats on Facebook. I did see that you have that on there. Are you on Instagram, TikTok, any of that stuff?
I mean, I am on Instagram. I don't really spend much time on there checking it. Really, the best thing is Facebook. Messenger. I'm on that all the time, and you can get me.
Awesome. Well, we'll post a link to your Facebook profile in the comments, and who knows? We might be talking 2 years from now, and maybe this sparked a partnership or something, and you are doing $10 million a year. Let's go.
Oh, at least. I got some big plans. So yeah, if anyone wants to talk, hit me up.
All right. Sounds good, brother. Let's get building.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Building Great Sales Teams. We sure do appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you consume podcasts. This way you'll get notifications as new episodes become available. Remember, great sales teams are not recruited. They are built block by block. Until next time.